Okay, normally I'd like sit here and try to write a script and spend months upon months trying to get a review put together, and then it never happens, as you can tell from the updates on my channel. However, I just noticed that Kandagawa Jet Girls is about to hit in a few days, and I need to warn people that it's kind of crap, so we're just doing this off the cuff. So look, here's the thing, I actually really like weird Japanese titty games. Especially because I feel like they aren't given a fair shake. Usually, reviews go in one of two different extremes. Either this self-righteous, moral grandstanding about how much better the reviewer is in this disgusting piece of filth they have to review, or, boobies go brrr, 10 out of 10. It's one or the other, and no one ever gets around to actually reviewing the gameplay. Now, Kandagawa Jet Girls looks like the perfect game for me. It's from the creator of Senran Kagura. I like Senran Kagura. I like these character designs even more, especially the American team in this game. So that's a good start. Next up, I love jet ski games. If you look back in my stream archive, I actually went out and bought like almost every single jet ski game from the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox era used because it just got this sudden craving for jet ski games. And on top of that, Mario Kart Double Dash is my favorite Mario Kart. You couldn't ask for a more perfect customer for Kandagawa Jet Girls. So yes, I imported this. It cost like $80 because importing things is insane these days. And yeah, you can watch the stream. I played it once and never again, and that's why it took so long for me to get this review out, because unfortunately it's really bad, and I feel bad about attempting to sabotage Xseed's work. I love Xseed as a company. I'm very grateful for the games that they bring over. In some ways, I'm glad that they are bringing this game over, but I kind of almost feel like I should have warned them not to, because Kandagawa Jet Girls is not a good game. So, okay, it's this weird, near-future team jet ski racing game where two girls are on a jet ski, one drives and the other has a water gun and shoots at the other teams to slow them down. Not a bad idea. Unfortunately, the racing feels absolutely terrible. First and foremost, there's no wave physics at all. You don't actually feel like you're on the water, other than the fact that you feel like you're stuck in molasses, because you move so freaking slowly, and your turning feels so sluggish and unresponsive. It's very, very just not that fun. Because of this, they realized the game was kind of slow and boring, so they cluttered the playfield with all these, like, balls and targets and obstacles and rings for you to shoot at and ride through to build your meter, but it's all just a distraction to take away from just how bad the controls feel. In some ways, it's a bit of a shame, because if there's one interesting part of the gameplay, it is the meter management. By shooting these targets and going through these rings and doing these tricks, you build up meter, and you can press X at any time to spend some meter and get a much-needed speed boost. Or you can wait until your meter fills up, and then you can press triangle to do a super move. You've also got question mark boxes that you, well, question mark holograms, I guess, that you ride through that get you, items that you can use. And on top of that, at any time, you can press the circle button to fire off your water gun. So those are all some pretty interesting mechanics, lots of things that you can do, but none of it feels particularly good or well executed. There's a huge delay between everything. Like, when you use your super move, there's a big pause, and it has to zoom in and show your characters striking a pose before firing off the super move, and that's a good question if the darn thing will even hit. There's a little bit of a delay before boosting, but that works relatively well, but it's the kind of boost where it lasts a specific amount of time. It's not like, you hold down the boost button and you boost until you release or anything. It's, no, you press the boost button, you get this much boost. Same thing with using items, is that you press square to use the item. Most of the time, I can't even tell if the item's being used. There's such a huge delay between me pressing square and the item being used. But the thing that really annoys me is the way the water guns work. You see, you'll have a water gun and it'll have 12 ammo. Okay, so you press circle and your character automatically fires off all 12 shots. You have no control over it. You can't just fire off one shot. And on top of that, there's this noticeable delay, once again, between pressing circle and firing the water gun. It feels less like you're shooting the water gun and more like the driver is saying, hey, shoot that water gun. Does not feel good at all. And the trick system is so shallow it's almost non-existent. You hit the ramp, you use the analog sticks in some kind of way, and you'll do a trick. You can't really, like, do trick combos or anything. So the best thing to do is just pick one of the default teams, because you can mix and match the characters, and then you spread the two analog sticks apart, and they'll do the fancy team-up pose trick thing, which is probably the best trick you can do, I guess. I don't know. The game's kind of a freaking mess, and it's such a shame, but the worst part is the drift mechanic. In most games, you'll hold down the drift button, and you'll, turn tighter, and then you release that drift button, and you get a boost, in your kart racing games. This game works kind of like that, except instead of it being a hold, it's a toggle. So, you hit L1 to enter drift mode. Suddenly, your vehicle turns way better than it used to, almost like it's being picked up out of the water and turned, and then you press the L button again to exit out of drift mode and cash in your boosts. Problem, your inputs keep getting eaten. There have been many times where I would hit the button to enter boost, or drift mode, I'd hit the drift button and drift just wouldn't engage. Or the drift would engage, then I'd hit the button to go out of it and boost, and it doesn't work. On top of that, when you're drifting, the camera doesn't turn with your jet ski nearly as tightly, and you don't go in the direction the camera is pointing, you go in the direction the jet ski is pointing. So when you try to drift and position yourself, you'll often be boosting off in some unseen blind direction and have no clue where you're actually going, often causing me to boost into a wall and get kinda stuck there. All in all, the mechanics just plain don't feel good. They had a few good ideas in here. I like all the things they have you do that can build meter and all the different ways you can use meter, but none of it feels good. None of it feels like it works right. I can barely tell what my super moves do. They take forever to fire off. I can barely tell what my items do. They take forever to fire off. On top of that, there's no really good feedback when you're getting hit or when you're hitting your opponents. It's like, are they blocking it, or is this doing damage? Because, like, the shots pretty much don't affect you until you fill up some kind of meter. After, like, a certain number of shots hit, then all of a sudden, oh, your shield turns red and you come to a complete and utter stop and you spin out. It's just not good visual feedback at all. On top of all of this, the frame rate is not very solid. Like, it does seem to stay above 30, but it's unlocked and it fluctuates a lot. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, I don't really see frame rate, I don't see what the big deal is, I can't tell the difference between 30 and 60, and I feel you on that one. But the thing with frame rate, it's not just about what you can see, it's about what you can feel. You see, the soonest any input can be responded to, when you press a button, the soonest that button can show a reaction on screen would be the very next frame. So a game that runs at 60 frames per second is twice as responsive as a game that runs at 30 frames per second. However, I would have rather Kandagawa Jet Girls had a locked 30, because a consistent frame rate is better than a high frame rate. This is because when a frame rate is fluctuating all over the place, some of those dropped frames might have, like, tried to have an input in them, leading to issues like what I mentioned earlier with the drift mechanic. On top of that, it means that your control responsiveness fluctuates with the frame rate. So, the controls are pretty darn good, and then they're not good, and then they are good, and then they're just all over the place. It's just a mess. And then there's the friggin' difficulty level. Story mode is a snooze fest. So easy it takes no effort to win, and it is boring. You will go into first place and be lapping everyone without any effort. You won't see your opponents ever again. But then arcade mode's so hard, I don't think I've even come in first place once. It's actually quite bizarre. Maybe I screwed up some setting because I can't read it and I put it into hard mode. I don't know. But it feels really weird because there have been many times where, and frequently, I would say that the computer opponents stay together in too tight of a cluster. So I've had many instances where I'm just completely alone and don't see any opponents anywhere, and I can't tell if I'm in first place or last place because they both feel about the same. The feedback just isn't good. The controls just don't feel good. This isn't a particularly pleasant racing game to play. And keep in mind, my standards are pretty rock bottom. I would honestly argue that Burger King's Pocket Bike Racer is a bit of an underrated gem, that it has some charming elements. Again, it's with the way they have their meter mechanics set up. It's actually kind of cool, but I like Pocket Bike Racer. I don't like this, and it's a shame. I love the character designs. I love the aesthetic. I love bright, colorful, happy girls, sparkling blue water. That's the thing that I like. I like so much of this game on paper, but in practice, it just falls apart. The controls just aren't good. The speed is just not there. It's a cluttered mess. Now, I know someone's going to ask, did Sony censor this game? And this is one of those awkward questions to answer, because you see, the game already isn't accurate to the anime. There is an anime. This was supposed to be a big multimedia production, and I've watched a few episodes of it. But in the anime, there's none of this friggin' clutter all over the course. That's unique to the game, at least from the episodes I've seen. On top of that, one of the rules of the anime is that you have a limited amount of ammo. You can't reload in the anime, and yet they're reloading here. So one of the mechanics that's in the anime, though, is that the wetsuits will automatically eject themselves as a safety feature if they take too much damage. This is easily my favorite part of the entire anime because it's so stupid and they know it. But no, this mechanic is not in the game at all, and that does sound like something that would be a Sony edict. Important thing to note about Sony's crazy new censorship policies, they're focused on the Me Too movement. They're focused less on characters having big boobs and skimpy outfits, and more on characters being touched, and it doesn't have to be with hands. That's why Galgun 2 had its VR mode removed, which, by the way, drastically improves the game. You can add VR back in if you play it on PC. They released it as DLC for that. Huge improvement. But that's the thing, like, Sony's whole censorship policy actually started with Dead or Alive Extreme 3's VR mode, because originally it let you poke the girls, and they'd go, yeah, dameo, and people blew that out of proportion, and that was when it was a slow news day, so it made the international news that there was a VR sexual harassment game coming to PSVR, and yeah, so then Sony started cracking down on those things. So that's the whole deal with that. But at the same time, while I could say, yes, Sony has censored this game, on the other hand, like I said, so much else of this game is not accurate to the anime that I can't really say. Might have provided a little bit better feedback for when you're taking damage, I guess, but not really anything worthwhile. And no, the PC release isn't going to be uncensored, because this is censorship on a design level, as I call it, where a design plan would have liked to have been scrapped. Honestly, it's not even worth splitting hairs over, because this game just isn't very good. I'd like to apologize to Xseed. I hate to undermine the sales of this game, and no one watches my channel, so probably no one's gonna see this, but yeah, no, I'm just not feeling it, and sorry for not going into further detail. I wanted to get this out before the game came out, because for crying out loud, I paid $80 for an early copy. I may as well review it, right? I will say, the game does have online play, but that didn't go too well for me, as you can see from the videos. I will say, the footage here is me playing the game after almost, like, half a year of not playing it. I've popped it in, like, twice now. So I don't think I'm doing particularly well, and I'm probably not particularly well trained in the game. And I will say that, so it, you know, maybe I missed something, but I really don't think I am. But when I did pop the game in after such a long hiatus of, I just don't want to see this game ever again, I did have a little bit of fun on my first race. I was figuring things out, and then second race, I was like, hey, maybe this game isn't as bad as I thought it was. But I did about 5 races, and I was done for good again. This game is, like, fun for a lap or two. It has no staying power. And actually, I don't think it has that many courses. I'm not sure. But yeah, no. Kandagawa Jet Girls is unfortunately not a very good game. Nice visuals, nice music, cute character designs, good concepts, interesting ideas for what to do with the meter system, but the controls are sluggish and unresponsive. The drift mechanic is poorly implemented. Shooting doesn't feel right. A lot of the combat-ish mechanics don't feel right, and the trick system's barely even there. All in all, I give it... I'll go be nice and give it a 2 out of 5. Anyway, this is Gel, and you've been very quickly and unscriptedly game babbled. See ya!